All right, everyone, couple exciting Nintendo news stories we need to talk about, starting with today's Pokemon Presents, revealing tons of details for Nintendo's big holiday 2022 game known as Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Then the big talking point for today's video has to do with more great news and great momentum for the Nintendo Switch hardware and software sales side of things, as their quarterly financial briefing was just wrapped up earlier this morning, and we have to break down all the results and discuss what this means for Nintendo and their bottom line going forward. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. And as I mentioned, guys, we got a couple massive stories to break down today, and we have to kick it off with a conversation about today's Pokemon Presents and all of the brand new details that were revealed for Scarlet and Violet, because these are absolutely games that I will have my eyes on, as I'm just historically a huge Pokemon fan, and I also thoroughly enjoyed my experience with Legends Arceus most recently, and I think that this game seems like it has some of those elements blended in. Definitely the open area layout you can absolutely see out of the gate, of course, as this is claimed to be the first true open world Pokemon experience, and it kind of felt like Legends Arceus was a little bit of a beta test for that. Even Sword and Shield in the open wild area before that definitely showed the Pokemon Company and Game Freak's intentions of kind of leading the series in this progression, but everything that was shown at today's event definitely did nothing but make me more hyped for the game. However, I still have some unanswered questions that I'm hoping we'll see answered soon. But of course, the event was roughly 18 minutes long in total, and it featured a lot of the front half of it just mobile event updates, basically Pokemon Go style, like gathering events that they're continuing to support, that kind of stuff, local get-togethers if you live in the UK, Pokemon Unite update, and Masters EX update, which is essentially their mobile games, and something briefly about Pokemon Cafe Mix. I really was pretty tuned out during the beginning portion of the presentation. However, of course, once we got to that Scarlet and Violet transition, it was time to pay attention. And yes, this game, by all accounts so far with what we have seen, is just looking better and better. And one of the big takeaways out of the gate when you talk about a massive open world map is traversal and how you will traverse. And we did get confirmation that we will be riding on our legendaries for this traversal, and I think that's fantastic. It also sounds like they're with you essentially out of the gate or very early game from everything I can see online, and I was pretty much already sold on getting Pokemon Violet, but after this trailer I'm 1000% sold, because the legendary for Violet just looks so cool with the futuristic style. He actually uses the wheels that are part of him as like a motorcycle would, as opposed to, for whatever reason, with the Scarlet legendary, the wheels are there but he's still running alongside of them. Like, you might as well have just taken the wheels off. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought that was pretty funny, but very similar to Legends Arceus in terms of travel. We can of course run across the land fast on the motorbike style mechanic, swim in water, and glide, not fly, but glide in a similar mechanic that I'm expecting from Legends Arceus to carry over to this with these legendaries. They also once again highlighted co-op play. That does seem like it'll be a focal point of this game, and I'm all for it. I think that being able to link up in the same world with your friends is going to be a really cool experience, and I just want to see how it works start to finish. Now, there's a ton more information on the Pokemon website. I'll have it linked in the description down below. That may answer some of those questions. I need to go through and read the details of everything that's outlined. And then another big enhancement from what we saw in Sword and Shield with raid style battles is now in raid style battles, you are able to attack and heal freely and not have to go through that turn by turn progression with all the people in the raid battle, which I think is going to absolutely smooth out and speed up the experience and make it feel far more engaging and enjoyable, because those raid battles could definitely drag on, especially if you're just playing with random people online that are taking their sweet time on their turn. And this also plays into their terrestrialized, I don't know if that's exactly how you say it, something close enough to that. It is basically a new style of Pokemon that looks like a crystallized form of them, and apparently depending on how rare the form of the Pokemon is that you caught, it can change into different elemental types accordingly, and you will want to focus on these raid battles to find the rare forms of those. So okay, that's a cool new mechanic, not like a revolutionary game changer by any means, but something new to hunt for. And when you look at the rarity of your Pokemon, we now have to worry about this kind of conversation where, oh well, does this grass type turn into a water type, or does this fire type turn into a ground type? Like, I guess there's going to be all that new type of stuff to look at your Pokemon stats. And they also called out and confirmed that yes, you can progress the gyms in any order, but apparently that is only one of 3 stories that they will have outlined for you to experience. So the 8 classic gym battles is one story, and then there's 2 other mystery stories that we don't really fully know what they will entail in terms of probably more more like character-driven, story-based progression, maybe a little bit more heavy into the dialogue side of things. Maybe one story is more end game style where you have to complete your Pokedex. Like, I'm not sure if that's been outlined, but there was one major thing that was missing from this event, in my personal opinion, and honestly, what I am most looking forward to seeing live in action, and that's the full-on battle system. Like, we got glimpses of it, but I want to see how you encounter Pokemon and how you encounter trainers, and whether or not that classical style transition screen pops up whenever you are walking in to meet these trainers for the first time or meet these Pokemon, or can you just throw out your Pokeball and summon your Pokemon in for battle at any time, or even attempt to catch a Pokemon without battling it first. I don't think that that was fully outlined or confirmed one way or the other. If I did somehow miss that, definitely let me know in the comments down below if that has been talked about on the website or anything, but it definitely seems like Game Freak is absolutely choosing to reveal some of the concept and some of the new mechanics and things, but not a clear, detailed look at all of them yet, and we still have a few more months to go to find out the unanswered questions, as these games will be out on Friday, November 18th this year in 2022, which is pretty crazy to consider that we are getting another mainline full new generation Pokemon open world experience in the same calendar year that we saw Legends Arceus launch. So this will be a day one pickup for me. I'm going to pick up Scarlet out of the gate. If there's some kind of crazy pre-order bonus or good deal on a double pack, I may end up doing that, but I always typically play one or the other. Then I trade some of the Pokemon that are version exclusive with friends. So that's probably what I'll stick to this time around. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what you thought about the Pokemon Presents earlier this morning. Overall, are you more or less hyped for the game now that we know some of these new details? How do you want the full-on combat system to unfold? Do you want it to be a little bit more akin to what we saw in Legends Arceus, or do you want it to be more of that traditional style that we've seen in Sword and Shield and other mainline Pokemon games? And bonus question, share with me if you're more hyped for Scarlet or Violet. Which one will you be picking up, or will you be getting the double pack? So please share all your thoughts and feelings on all things Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and today's Presents in the comments down below. Now, the other story we're talking about today has to do with Nintendo and their latest quarterly financial briefing that did just wrap up really in the middle of the night here in the US, or very early in the morning in Japan. And we do have some interesting results to talk about from this, and we should also be seeing a lot of transcriptions come up in the upcoming days and weeks, as there is always that interesting Q&A section where Furukawa himself and the panel at Nintendo are asked various questions about the state of the company and what their plans are for the future. And sometimes there's little nuggets of information, but of course never expect them to come out and say, oh yeah, the new version of the Nintendo Switch will actually be out next year in March alongside of Breath of the Wild 2. We're not going to get any spoilers like that, but there are some interesting tidbits that are sometimes taken away from those conversations, and to quickly kick off the conversation around their sales momentum, where they're at now, and also what it means for the future of the platform, as we are now well over 5 years of the Switch being sold and available on the market. Let's quickly hop over to VGC and read through their detailed typed up article together. Nintendo also reports sales decline as Switch hits 111 million units. Switch hits 111 million units, but hardware and software sales are down year on year. Nintendo hardware and software sales both declined year on year for 3 months ended June 2022, which the company blamed partly on component shortages. Hardware sales for Nintendo's Q1 totaled 3.43 million units, down 22.9% year on year, and software sales totaled 41.41 million units, down 8.6%. Net sales were also down 4.7% to 307 billion yen. However, net profits were up 28.3% compared to last year at 166.7 billion yen. During the first quarter, April through June 2022, Nintendo Switch Sports, released in April, achieved sales of 4.84 million units, and Mario Strikers Battle League, released in June, sold 1.19 million units. In addition, titles released in previous fiscal years, such as Kirby and the Forgotten Land, sold 1.88 million units for cumulative sales of 4.53 million units, a series record according to Nintendo. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold a further 1.48 million units for cumulative sales of 46.82 million units. Nintendo Switch sold a further 3.43 million during the quarter compared to 4.45 million during the same period last year, for a life-to-date total of 111.08 million. Earlier this year, Switch was already confirmed as the best-selling Nintendo home console of all time, beating Wii's 101.63 million. However, it still has a way to go before it matches Nintendo DS's 154 million units sold and Game Boy and Game Boy Color at 118.69 million. Outside of Nintendo's own consoles, only PlayStation 4 at 116 million and PlayStation 2 at 155 million have outsold Nintendo Switch. So while some online have discussed that because it's a decline year on year, maybe it's not a great news scenario for Nintendo and where they want their hardware to be. However, if you look at the broader picture of where Nintendo is at, well past their 5th year of selling the Switch, as well as selling really original hardware outside of the OLED model, definitely justifying some of the upgrades, Nintendo is still marketing and selling a Tegra X1 that was developed in 2015 and launched on the Switch in 2017 in today in 2022 and having these kind of growth numbers. And I think it is also fair to say that some of the decline around these numbers are probably indicative of the broader supply chain issues that everybody is seeing right now. Higher costs for getting and securing components as well as shipping these consoles, not to mention year-on-year decline. I think you could argue would be somewhat expected whenever we are talking about years that were more in the height of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, as opposed to where we are at now, with many people shifting back to office type work and maybe don't have that work from home thing that was going on for a lot of times during that. Hence, maybe they had more time to game before than they do right now. And so all things considered, this is still a great news scenario for Nintendo at the end of the day. What will be curious to see is whether or not Nintendo does feel the need to extend out the current family of Switch life with something like a more powerful console or not. And I think that definitely could have impact on whether or not we are talking about the Switch when it comes to a historical perspective of it being truly the best-selling home console ever, period, which is a little bit complex to begin with because we have a Switch Lite, which is technically not a home console in those numbers. But you know, Nintendo also considered the Game Boy and Game Boy Color the same generation, which they definitely weren't. So whether or not we get a Pro model and that just propels the sales, because I think there's a large chunk of the Switch user base that would upgrade for better visuals, better frame rates, and just more consistent performance overall, especially if you put some exclusive titles on there that can only run on the upgraded hardware. I think it drives some more crazy momentum around Switch sales in the near future. But if we don't see that, we may start to see a little bit of a decline because there's already 100+ million gamers, 111 million gamers now at this point that own a Switch today. And clearly, unless you have a reason to go purchase another one, you might just hang on to your console until Nintendo gives you a reason to go buy a new one. So I think that this is an interesting one. I will definitely have my eyes and ears open around the Q&A portion of this quarterly financial briefing, and we'll keep you updated on everything that gets asked and translated once we get those transcripts out here on the channel. But at this point in the video, I want to hear from you guys on both the different stories we talked about today, all your hype levels, thoughts, and opinions on all things Pokemon Presents today and Scarlet and Violet specifically, and definitely share with me how you think Nintendo is handling the success of the Nintendo Switch. Do you think it's time for a revision to kick those sales into another high gear, or do you think that Nintendo just stays the course for the time being and maybe doesn't put out any other revisions until something like a true next generation console and continues just to ride some declining success but still very big numbers on the Switch console or Switch family of systems? And what do you think about some of these software numbers like Mario Kart 8 literally almost being at 50 million total units sold? Like, that's absolutely insane. So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, where we boot up some timeless classics from all but forgotten franchises that have yet to have an iteration on the Nintendo Switch console. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.